Let's resume our study. So, in the previous lecture, I have introduced to you the binary form, the binary structure in philosophy. And now we move on, continue the discussion about Eleatics. So, what meaning are we to attribute to the Eleatic assertion that the world of sensual objects is unreal? Our question is not what meaning the Eleats themselves understood it to have. Actually, this is very difficult to know because that was, 2,500 years ago. But what meaning we can attribute to it? So again, here we have another binary form, which is the attribution we have for the Eleatics and their actual thought. In psychology, we also have attribution theory. Let's say, for example, let's say a bad thing happened. It is actually up to us to attribute the meanings to a certain bad event. And in fact, we can have a lot of choices for the same event in the whole attribution process. Here is basically what attribution means. But of course, in philosophy, attribution is somewhat more transcendental, but yeah, just don't worry about it right now. We just can follow the text and see what Stace has to tell us. It may well be that the Eleatics themselves, in their primitive groupings, understood very little of what was implied in their own dim ideas, but the implications, the thoughts which they wrapped up, implicit hidden way, unseen perhaps by the Eleatics themselves. These are what are valuable to us. So here the author is basically telling you that it is kind of unrealistic for us to actually know what the Eleatics thought in their own time. But even so, based on what they might have thought in their doctrine of philosophy, we can still find a way to grasp the truth. And what kind of truth is that? Well, just don't forget what we have discussed in section A, that of being of multiplicity and about one versus many, truth versus sensation or illusion. And based on that knowledge, we can just simply move on to see what the author has to say. So multiplicity and motion then, and the sense world of which they are the main characteristics, are unreal in this school of thought. What does this mean? Does it mean that the sense world, multiplicity and motion are not there, do not exist? If motion is illusory, does this mean that an express train from London to Bristol does not move, that at the end of its journey it is still in London? So basically now we have a very, very basic philosophical thought experiment. So let's say we see something is moving or something has been moving. We see it moves from A to B. So now we see a motion, which is what this text is telling you, right? Is it an illusion to us? Because actually there is just one thing, right? And the sense of time that we have felt in this moving process is basically a change of space location of the single object. Then ancient Greek philosophers also had noticed about this regard. So what they might say is that this whole moving process is just an illusion because there is just only one single object and the whole moving process has faded away from us, and we only have some weird impression that the thing might have moved. We cannot have definite assertion about its moving because we can only see it's located at B at the end of the move. So this is a very simple illustration of what the author has discussed up in the text. Let's move on. So if multiplicity is unreal, if being is an absolute unity, does this mean that when we suppose ourselves to have 20 solvents, the truth is that we have only one? This is questioning whether multiplicity is reliable. Manifestly, this is nonsense. So now we see a very basic negation here, and that's actually quite important. So basically, it's like whenever you say negation in a philosophical text, especially it's about Hegelian philosophy, that is important. To say in this sense that the world of sense does not exist has no meaning. That no sane person ever denied that things, this table, that hat exist. Berkeley is popularly supposed to have propounded the absurd opinion that matter does not exist, and propound basically just means make a suggestion, or simply to suggest. Dr. Johnson, hearing this, proceeded to refute it by kicking a stone with his foot. Dr. Johnson generally gets the credit of being a stupid Philistine who did not understand philosophy, but the fact is that if Berkeley had really propounded the insane opinion attributed to him, Dr. Johnson's refutation would have been conclusive and final. The views which Berkeley actually did express, and which no amount of mere kicking can refute, were this: that matter exists only in and for our minds and in the mind of God, that its essence consists in its being perceived, and that there is beneath this visible and tangible appearance no unknown and unknowable substratum. So if you find the sentence confusing, just think about this example. No matter what kind of philosophical doctrine you believe, or no matter what kind of religion, or any other beliefs that you believe, if you run into a war, it hurts. No one can just deny that, okay? So this is a very basic idea. Even in idealism, no one still would not deny this simple fact that physical objects exists, okay? That the material world does not exist at all, that is to say, is not there. No sane human being has ever, so far as I know, had a hardihood to affirm. Obviously, the material world is there, as Dr. Johnson proved. You may, if you like, call it a dream, or an illusion, or an appearance, but still, just like I said, if you hit a wall with your head, it hurts, right? But still the dream, the illusion, the appearance is there. It quite certainly exists.